If you have practical wisdom or a story to share that will encourage moms in your area or around the world, we'd love for you to join our MOPS Speaker Network today, where you'll have the opportunity to connect with MOPS groups to inspire and encourage moms. Visit mops.org/speakers to learn more.
What would a great leader do? Oh my gosh, it just messed me up as bad as that conference. What would a great leader do? Let's just say it together. What would a great leader do? Now, the problem with this question, as we're going to see, it does four things, but the problem with this question is you cannot hide, this is why I want to talk about it. This is why what Clay said yesterday is so important. You cannot hide from yourself when you ask this question and answer it honestly. You cannot hide from yourself. It's hard to even lie to yourself when you stop in any decision-making environment and ask the question, okay, what would a great leader do in these circumstances? It's just one of those questions that is centering, it's convicting, it's revealing, it's terrible, and it's wonderful. And for the next few minutes, I want to just talk about it to the point that maybe for the rest of your life as a leader, you'll begin to ask it, because this may be the best self-leadership question you'll ever ask yourself. And it's a question that you need to ask yourself for the rest of your life as long as you have any kind of leadership opportunities. You may never be a great leader, but if you ask this question, you will be a better leader, I guarantee it. And here's the thing, and you know this, the better leader you become, the better leaders you attract. The better leader you become, the better leaders you attract. You owe it to yourself to ask yourself this question. You owe it to your church and your organization to ask this question, because you need to max out your leadership potential. And looking beyond your leadership potential, looking beyond your leadership experience is going to help you do that. And one of the best ways to do that is to ask this question. Now, you know, I think mentoring is great. I think discipleship is great. I think being around people who are further than us and work faster than us and are smarter than us, I'm all for that. But those opportunities are limited, to be honest, because the people you want to be around are busy, or you wouldn't want to be around them. And the worst thing you can ever ask a leader is, will you mentor me? Never, ever, ever, ever ask a leader that question, ever. The answer will be, no, I'm not going to mentor you. You little baby, go figure it out for yourself, okay? So, isn't that what you've thought? Some guy walks up, you know, some kid, and it's like, this kid, I don't even know how he got here. You know, his things all hanging out. So will you just mentor me? It's like, no, I don't even mentor my own kids. Get out of here. Okay, anyway, sorry. But a great question is, hey, could we get together? I just want to ask you 3 questions. Okay, I'll do that. Well, that's what mentoring is. That's how you sneak into a mentor relationship with somebody. You have questions. You know, will you mentor me? So anyway, so here's the thing. It's difficult to get time with people who are far enough ahead of us, or, you know, doing what we do or doing what we do better. That's challenging. You should take advantage of every opportunity you get. But this question is an ever-present prompter and an ever-present kick in the butt as a leader when it comes to self-leadership. Because you are smart enough to know the answer to this question 90% of the time you ask it. It's not asking it that leaves us wondering what to do. Asking it is so extraordinarily clarifying that sometimes it's terrifying. So this question will do 4 things, accomplishes 4 things. I'll go through these pretty quick. It's there in your notes. First one is this, letter A. This question raises the standard of your leadership above the circumstances of your leadership. And this is so important. This question, what would a great leader do, will raise the standard of your leadership above the circumstances of your leadership. In your notes, great leaders look beyond the immediate. Great leaders look beyond the immediate. But our emotions fasten us to the immediate. Our emotions, our experience, who we know, who's asking it, what we happened for breakfast that morning, you know, what happened at home before we got to work. There are so many things that just strap us to the immediate. But great leaders never answer questions or make decisions just based on the immediate. Pausing to ask this question. Okay, I see what's going on. I know what everybody wants me to do. I know I got to do something quick. Everybody wants the thing now. The world's falling apart. What would a great leader do? And suddenly you are ripped out of the immediate, and you have just a moment in time, or maybe longer than a moment in time, to get your eyes fastened on the ultimate recalculate or recentering on mission vision. Great leaders look beyond the immediate. Second thing in your notes, great leaders transcend the emotion of the moment. And isn't it true that so many of our decisions, in fact, all of our decisions are made within some kind of emotional environment? There are no emotionally neutral environments. There are no emotionally neutral environments, maybe unless you're asleep, okay? But in terms of leadership, there are really no emotional and relationally neutral environments. None of your relationships are neutral. None of the context of the leadership development and, leadership or leadership in general is neutral. There's always emotion. There's always a pressure to push us one way or the other. But great leaders somehow are able to transcend all the stuff going on in the immediate, all the emotion of the immediate, to step back, and they make bigger, better decisions. And this question will help you do that. Also in your notes, great leaders absorb, mediocre leaders defend. Great leaders absorb, mediocre leaders defend. Let me tell you exactly, let me talk about that for just a minute, because it doesn't seem to be connected to this point, but it's so connected. Remember yesterday in Clay's talk, when he talked about sitting outside the governor's office and hear somebody pounding on the table saying, "I am the governor of the state of Georgia." There is someone who was not absorbing. They were defending. They were reflecting. The emotion of the moment was driving them. Great leaders never pound on anything and announce that they're the leader. I mean, remember elementary school? The teacher that yelled the most had the least control of the class. Isn't that true? And there were teachers you feared, and they only had to whisper. And everybody lined up at the water fountain and was completely silent. And she would just walk by and with her eyes silence you. Never raised her voice, never raised his voice. Isn't that true? Well, that's someone who's able to transcend the emotional moment. When we take things personally, I just wrote this in my notes to help clarify this and connect these dots. When we take things personally, we tend to make emotionally motivated decisions. But this question lifts us above that. I know what I feel like doing, but what would a great leader do? I know what I feel like doing, but what would a great leader do? I know what I'm tending to want to do. I know what I'm leaning into doing. I know what I've always done. I know what you're expecting me to do. I know what the emotion of the moment, I know I could power up. I know I could take advantage. I know I could pound on the table. And I know that I feel like pound, but I know I feel like getting out the gun. But what would a great leader do? And great leaders in the moment where there's high emotion are able to absorb and not reflect, not deflect, and not defend. Second thing this question does, this question in your notes, letter B, unveils motives. And this, I think, is why many leaders are actually afraid to ask this question. This question unveils motives. In your notes, corporate mission and vision will eventually conflict with personal ambition. Corporate mission and vision, the mission vision of your church, your parachurch organization, your business, whatever it might be, eventually corporate mission and vision, in other words, what's best for the organization will eventually conflict with your personal ambition. What's best for the organization may not be best for you personally. What's best for the organization may not be best for you personally. Leaders, in your notes, are good at camouflaging. Leaders are good at camouflaging personal agendas with the language of mission and vision. This happens in church all the stinking time. And what makes it worse is not only do we have, I'd sort of like to do this over here. I think I'll kind of hijack the mission and vision of the church. And then we have a Bible verse. And then God told me. And the Spirit revealed. Next thing you know, nobody can even ask you a question or argue with you. And we've camouflaged personal agenda with mission and vision of the organization. This question will just rip the camouflage right off of that silly thing that we all have a tendency to do. What would a great leader do? Great leaders sacrifice what's personal for the sake of what's best for the organization. That's what great leaders do. That's what our great leader did. What was best for Jesus? Not what he chose. What was best for the church? What was required for the church? His death, his sacrifice. We of all people, we of all organizations, we of all groups of leaders should understand this, and we should never, ever camouflage personal, unhealthy ambition with the language of mission and vision, especially as it's associated with the local church. We should just always be extremely ashamed of ourselves. And this question, will just rip the camouflage, rip all that gobbledygook, self-talk right off the lid. So every once in a while, you just got to stop and ask, okay, we're about to up this, or they're about to give me a higher car allowance, or they're about to do this for me. It's my birthday, or whatever they're about to do, and suddenly you're going to get honored. Somehow you're about to get a little extra attention, and all that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But you just got to stop and say, okay. What would a great leader do? Would a great leader allow this? Would a great leader accept this? Would a great leader leverage this? And if the answer is yes, you go for it. But ask the question and do not camouflage stuff that should not be a part of our church with the language of mission and vision. It's ridiculous. Again, what would Jesus do? We don't even have to ask. We all know. Okay, the next thing in your notes, this question creates instant clarity. Because again, we all know. It just creates instant clarity. What would a great leader do? Oh, I know that. Letter C, third thing, this question reveals weaknesses. It creates tension. You can maybe want to write this down in your notes. It creates tension that deserves our attention. This question reveals weakness. It creates tension that deserves our attention. And here's what I mean by that. Because, there's a conflict and you're a conflict avoider. So as a conflict avoider, there's a conflict. So what do? Your natural tendency is to send somebody down there. Why don't you go down there and meet with them, tell me what they say? And then you say, wait. What would a great leader do? Great leaders don't avoid conflict. I avoid conflict. My personality avoids conflict. I hate conflict. Conflict makes me want to go home. Conflict just freaks me out. But what would a great leader do? A great leader would get up and walk down there and do it themselves. A great leader would get in their car and call a meeting and invite all the people that I don't want to talk to into the meeting and talk to the people I don't want to talk to. What would a great leader do? A great leader would own it. A great leader would walk into it. A great leader would make the call, send the email, have the conversation, set up the appointment. That's what a great leader would do. I do not want to do any of that. But that's what a great leader would do. And suddenly there is a tension to which you need to pay attention, because this will reveal your weakness as a leader. Some of you have the opposite problem. You have my problem. I want to go in there with a sledgehammer every single time and just go fixed. Because in my wonderful, wonderful administrative assistant who's sitting down here, Diane, and her assistant, Sarah, my assistant's assistant, because I'm such a big shot, I have an assistant's assistant, who actually runs the office. And my wife down here, I'm telling you, these three ladies understand, okay? Somebody go throw a bucket of water on Andy. Andy, you can't go down there. As Diane would say, remember, Andy, your words weigh 1,000 pounds. Let me go down there and give them some 100-pound words instead of your 1,000-pound words. And she's smart. Sandra knows this as well. She'll listen to me rant. She's going, you can't call them now. You need to wait. I don't want to wait. I got a good argument in my head. I'm going to win. Great leaders don't win. Listen, you know this. No one has ever won an argument. Now, you've had arguments. I mean, come on, married people. Have you ever won an argument, like you out-argued your wife or you out-argued your husband and they finally said, oh, man, you got me. Let's hug. You don't win an argument. So see, when I start powering up and I'm going to go down and I'm the governor, great leaders don't do that. Great leaders don't avoid confrontation, and great leaders don't look for confrontation. Great leaders look for ways to make their organizations prosper, and the people that they lead want to be there and do their best and give their best 100% of the time. This question will reveal your weaknesses, and your weaknesses have to do with your personality. They're not going to change. They're always going to be there, but this question will keep you between the guardrails. Last one. This question will inspire you to reach beyond the limits of personality and style. And this is similar to number 3. And here's why I want to focus on this. How many times have you said, either out loud or in your heart or in your head, that's just not me. That's just not me. That's just not me. That's just not what I do. That's just not me. Sometimes as a leader, you got to do what's not you. And when you stop and say, that's just not me, that's not my comfort zone, that's not what I'm good at, okay, what would a great leader do? I think in this circumstance, a great leader would step out of their comfort zone and go be someone they're not because of this situation calls for it. Not 100% of the time, or you'll be stressed out all the time. But every once in a while, leadership requires of us to step out of our comfort zone, do the thing we don't normally do, address things that we don't normally want to address, step into environments that we're extremely uncomfortable with. What would a great leader do? Great leaders do not hide behind leadership style. Great leaders do not hide behind giftedness. Great leaders don't hide behind anything. Great leaders do what great leaders do. And when you ask this question, again, you're gonna bump into that tension that deserves your attention. And in some cases, you're gonna realize, I'm hiding behind my personality. I'm hiding behind my style. It's just a terrible question, isn't it? What would a great leader do? Now, if you think, I don't know, just let me turn it around and put it this way. Don't you wish your senior pastor would ask this question every day? Don't you wish your senior pastor would stop in the middle of some of the conversations you've had with him or her and stop and ask the questions, what would a great leader do? What would a great church do? What would a great staff do? In other words, I don't know if we're gonna do it, but at least let's let our minds wander off the edge and outside of our personality and outside of our limitations and at least dream, what would a great leader do? What would a great pastor do? What would a great student minister do? What would a great church do? Because suddenly the world becomes a bigger, better, brighter place if we pause long enough to ask the question. This question will give you a glimpse of what could be and should be for you as a leader, whether you ever exercise it or not. This question will give you a glimpse of what could be and should be for you as a leader. So I want you to ask it, whether you intend to follow through or not.